1,000 years ago, adventurous souls set out into the ocean on a journey of discovery. They ultimately found these beautiful islands that we now know as French Polynesia, and the people who settled here we call Polynesians. The knowledge that they had to survive was passed down from parent to child, and these were essential skills that were honed over many, many, many generations. Today, in our civilized world, if we're hungry, we simply open the refrigerator. If we are thirsty, we turn on the tap, and our needs are met. Here, it's a very different story. On this island, as beautiful as it is, there is no fresh water. I do have coconuts all around me, so that provides coconut water, which is delightful. And there are a couple other ways of garnering fresh, drinkable water. It's kind of ironic that on an island surrounded by water, all that water out there is not consumable. We can't drink it. If we do, we actually die of dehydration because of the high salt content of the water. Our body just cannot process that amount of salt. So there is a way to convert salt water into fresh water, drinking water. And we're going to experiment with that on my survival challenge here. Water. That's the critical element. That's what you need right away. That's what you can't do without for more than a couple days. So it hasn't rained for a while. I've had some fortune to have some coconut water, but I have to take matters into my own hands and convert some of this abundance of seawater to fresh drinking water. When it rains, have you ever thought, where does that water come from? How does the water get up into the clouds? I'll give you a moment. Okay, most of you know, it's pretty simple. The water predominantly comes from the ocean. It evaporates from the surface of the ocean, goes up as water vapor into the clouds, condenses until it becomes thick enough water vapor up there that it starts to rain. So that process of salt water from the ocean, which is not drinkable, poison, in fact, if you consume it when you really need water, take that water, when it evaporates up into the clouds, all of the mineral particulates are left behind. Only the H2O goes up there. So the salt content stays behind and fresh water is created. Interesting idea. Here's another example. You're at home. You're frying a big pan full of potatoes. You have the lid on the frying pan. It's been sizzling and cooking in there. You pull the lid off, what happens? A bunch of water vapor has condensed up to the top of that lid. And if you hold that lid at an angle now, all that water drips into the pan. Many of you have experienced that. So we're going to replicate a similar process. We're going to take salt water, poison to drink. We're going to evaporate it. We're going to capture that steam and recondense that steam, which will become fresh drinking water. We have in this tea kettle salt water obtained from the ocean. So the salt water is in our tea kettle. It's being heated by this wood burning stove. The fire boils the water. The water condenses to steam. The steam rises and goes up this tube, goes down this coil, and goes down into this collection jar. I know the coil looks like it's from an alcohol making device, but it's not. I've told you that. Wilson, if you have nothing positive to say, just don't say anything at all. All right, that's better. Science. once again, has saved the day through knowledge. So granted, this process is labor intensive. You have to feed that fire all the time. And it probably took about an hour and a half to create a cup of water. So that's not a lot. But let me tell you, in a life and death situation, a cup of water is amazing. It will save your life. In a life or death situation, to get that much water in an hour and a half, that's worth doing. Not even the slightest hint of salt. It's quite good. Yes, I'm going to tell them. You don't have to keep reminding me. So here's the tea kettle that we use to boil the salt water. When we boiled the salt water, the liquid was transformed into a gaseous state. And in that gaseous state, all the mineral content in the water was left behind. So the byproduct that we received was the salt water minus any of the minerals. And we were left with drinking water that we could now consume. So what might we expect to see if we looked inside this tea kettle? Well, let's take a look. The salt content, the salt, remains in the tea kettle. Now I have that sea salt to use as a spice. I think I'm going to make some fish. It's important to check your bed for bed bugs every night, just in case. See, there's one now. Yeah. I've had to capture this little guy, and I'm going to set him free. I'm just going to relocate him. He's carved this huge hole in this tree, and I'm afraid he's going to kill it and bring it down. There's his new home, about 50 yards away from the tree. Hopefully that'll work. My relocation attempt did not help, and the protective pine cone I shoved in there probably won't do much good. And he brought a friend. Okay, they've been relocated 150 yards away. Let's hope that that works.